And I became an entrepreneur about 15 years ago and really didn't know anything about anything in the business world. I did know that I wanted to do work that made a difference in the world, and I wanted to help people who were making an impact in the world. So wrote my first book called Marketing with a Heart. That was my business name as well. And then over the years, as I got deeper into the understanding of how I could help people and how I wanted to help people, I realized that it wasn't just about marketing. And I thought quite a bit, did some reflection, thought about my purpose in life. And I realized influence was a much more appropriate word because it could apply to leadership, to communication, to a great many things. So Influence with a Heart ended up being my business name. It's the term Influence with a Heart is embedded in two of my book titles so far of the four books I've written. And it's really about inspiring more people to say yes to what you offer, so you can help them elevate their business or life or both, and by extension, help change the world.
That is such a grand and overarching explanation of what you do, which has a very deep purpose. Yes, I appreciate that very much, and I'm sure the audience does too, and let them engage with that just a little bit. So you started helping people, reaching people to tell their story, have an influence on the world. But can you take us through your journey and how your book writing has helped you?
Yeah, thank you. So, it's about a 40-year journey, and I'll try to do the nutshell in a coherent way. So I've wanted to write a book since I was 12 years old, and I have been writing and producing things literally for the last 40 years of my life. I've studied writing. I had a career in magazines. I wrote communications for a nonprofit and started the business, like I said, with Marketing with a Heart. And at the time that I shifted over to Influence with a Heart, I'd literally changed one word on my LinkedIn profile. Right? I changed the word marketing to influence. 2 weeks later, somebody reached out to me and she said, "Hey, I work with an event planning company. We have business people from one company in Australia coming to the US. They're going to tour around Silicon Valley, visit Google and Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. They're going to come to Stanford for a couple of days of leadership and influence training. Do you want to give that training?" And I went, "Oh, of course I want to give that training, right?" I wasn't sure how they found me, but they found me. "Do you want to give this training?" Great. So we figured out all the details, signed the contract, and then I said to the event planner, I really want to make this event special. These folks have literally will have traveled from the other side of the world. So I'm going to show up with autographed copies of my brand new book for everyone in the audience and your staff. So this is like for free. And so it's about 130 free books. And the event planner says, "Wow, that's really generous. They're really going to love that." And I said, "You're welcome." And we hung up the phone. And then I went, "Oh, crap. I have to write that book that I just promised." Yep. And it gets better because from the promise to the actual event at Stanford, I had 6.5 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wrote the book in 3 weeks, got it printed, produced, and shipped. In the other three, showed up to Stanford with autographed books and lots of good news. The event went really well. The event planning company hired me several more times to speak. Stanford University a few more times, one time also at the University of Washington. And then in the meanwhile, the members of the audience who were from one company in Sydney, Australia, they invited me to speak the following year in Australia, which was super cool. So I did a couple of trainings for them while I was there in Sydney. And then if we go back in time or forward in time, depending how you're thinking about this, as I was writing the book, I had somebody design the book cover and I put it up on LinkedIn, right? And I tell all my authors, right, use your book cover for marketing purposes before the book is done, right? So I put the book cover up on LinkedIn and I said, "Hooray, I'm so excited. My next book is coming into the world." And somebody reached out to me through LinkedIn And he said, "Hey, I'm a consultant working with a Fortune 100 company in conjunction with MIT and a video game studio out of Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Oh.
Yeah, we're creating a mindfulness and empathy video game for this Fortune 100 company. It's going to be played by 20,000 customer experience employees.
Hmm.
We we saw your book, and in my head, I'm like, you didn't see the book, you only saw the cover." But I didn't say that out loud. You know, he says, "We saw your book. We'd like you to write the curriculum for the video game." And I went, "Of course I'll write the curriculum." And
Yeah.
that turned into 10 months of consulting with a Fortune 100 company. And those two events basically turned my business around as an entrepreneur, because all the years before that, I was pretty much broke, in debt, doing catering gigs, doing food delivery, like whatever I had to do to make it happen. So these two experiences came to be, I made 7 times as much money that year that I did than I did the year before.
Oh.
And then I figured out from those two experiences, wait a minute, I could teach people how to do all of that in a methodological, process-oriented way, help people write their books really fast in as little as 5 weeks, help
Mhm.
people make sure their book is going to work before they publish it, help them
Mhm.
get clients and partners before the book is finished, and then help them through the publishing process so they can bring their book to the world strategically and impactfully and not drive themselves bananas in the whole.
Wow, that's what a roller coaster ride, and you were able to rise the occasion in a royal way in both cases. So there's something about, well, I want to get to your methodology because it's definitely something that we want to share, very valuable, and I want to let the audience know that Ben being very generous with us today. We really appreciate it, and do reach
My
out to
pleasure.
him. He's a valuable resource, and as you can tell, he's a very approachable and very authentic and honest
Thank
man
you.
with a heart to help. So,
Thank you.
okay, so we're going to dive a little bit into, so it all came together for your Stanford presentation. You promised a
Yeah.
book, didn't have one yet, but it all came together in less than 3 weeks. And then you had it
Yeah.
printed and published. You signed them all, took them down to Stanford, and gave a rousing presentation. You were invited back multiple times and even visited to the south of the hemisphere to deliver again because you had an impact. So there was the process, but more than that, though, the message was powerfully delivered and received. So let's dive into all three of those aspects of. Let's start with your Stanford journey.
Sure, sure. Yeah, thank you. I mean, that was certainly something that I didn't expect to happen. And there are a couple things that I can point to leading up to that whole experience.
Hmm.
So when I was in my 20s and early 30s, I used to do way too many drugs, right? For a little more than a decade, too many parties, too many pills, too many white powders, all that stuff, and never thought it was a problem because I always had really good jobs, and then I would get hired to another good job and make a bunch more money,
Mm.
right? So on paper, life is good, right? But sooner or later that stuff catches up with you. And for me, I found my way to rock bottom, the proverbial rock bottom.
Mm.
And I remember stepping out of my office. I was living in San Francisco at this point, and looking at the sky saying, wow, I just want to be free, right? And I had traveled to India about a year and a half before then, and had the crazy experience of facing death a few times
Mm.
in about 72 hours.
Mm.
So there was this deeper galvanizing of my purpose. Like I really wanted to make an impact, and really was so grateful to life and the opportunity to be alive. But still the drugs were in the mix, and inhibiting me moving forward. So stepped out of my office, like I said, I want to be free. And I was like, oh, what can I do? I can go back to India, right? So I went back to India and I did a volunteer project, which was really, really amazing. I
Mhm.
lived up in the Himalayas with a family
Wow.
for about a month. I helped them farm barley. And when I was leaving from that volunteer project, I did a 9-day trek or a 9-day hike through the Himalayas with a couple of other friends and some guides, and had this crazy experience of basically because I didn't show up to India with new hiking boots,
Hmm.
and I couldn't buy new boots because I'm a size 13 US, and that wasn't even heard of, in the little town. Um, I got my boots fixed, which was good news. But the not so good news was that in fixing the boots, the cobbler put some glue and some fabric that ended up causing me to have two big blisters, one of on each of my Achilles tendons
Oh,
on day one of the hike. So I'm about to hike for 9 days, and I figured it out about 6 to 8 hours a day, really rough hike, dry riverbeds, 144,000 steps is my approximation. Every other day, we're going over a high pass, 12,000 feet up to 16,000 feet and down again. And every single step is miserable.
oh, ouch.
Ouch, ouch,
Painful.
ouch. Painful, and not only the physical pain, but all of the mental and psychological pain of judgment to myself. Like, what are you, an idiot? How did you not show up with new boots? What are you, stupid? Like, just all of this, monkey mind, negative chatter. So all of this is going on for days and days and days. And
Hmm.
it sucks. It's terrible. And
Hmm.
then, like day six, I'm walking along, and still every single step hurts a lot. But I look up at the mountains above me, 28,000-foot peaks, like the Himalayas are just epic. I look
Magnificent.
up and I said, wow, everything is so beautiful. Why is everything so beautiful? I'm not on drugs. Why is everything so beautiful? And I realized, oh, from every single one of those painful steps for the last 6 days, that was actually forcing me to stay in the present moment. So for the first time in my life, because I didn't really have any meditation experience at that point, no mindfulness practices, I didn't really have any tools, but
Hmm.
then suddenly the universe, or however you want to say it, has me staying in the present moment for about 6 days straight. And I went, oh, this is what this means. This is why this is so important.
Yes.
Not only did I discover the present moment, but I discovered about 12 years later, because sometimes it takes a minute, the difference between pain and suffering, right? That we have pain in our lives, just being human beings, physical pain, emotional pain, mental pain,
Hmm.
spiritual pain. But then the suffering is all that stuff that we add on, the judgment, the anger, the worry, the doubt, the anxiety, all those things. And so much of the time, arguably all the time, the suffering part is optional.
Oh, what a
Yeah.
revelation.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
amazing. So I took that core understanding into the book writing process and try to help people understand that it doesn't have to be a miserable, slogging, alcohol-laden experience like, it's often made out to be in the movies,
Hmm.
but that there's a way to get through the stuff that's blocking and keeping people stuck, and that people can get their books done, make them high quality, and get their message to the world much, much faster.
Oh, gee, what a life-changing event that was. And
Yeah,
now you're sharing it with the world. Uh,
yeah.
okay, so let's take us through the mindset, the steps that help you and help you help others get that book written or get into the process of writing that book.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you asking. Yeah, so it's a couple things in the mix. First and foremost, I encourage everyone to smile as much as possible every day, all day for the rest of your life, because it will literally change your life. And this is something I learned from a meditation teacher, and it's part of my meditation practice. And the way I describe it is I like to say that a light mind is the right mind to write, right? So when we have a lighter mind, our day goes better, the book writing goes better, that difficult conversation goes better. We are better leaders, we're better parents, we're better friends, right? We're better spouses, partners, the whole deal. So the lighter mind, is one of the most powerful things to bring into anything, but especially the book writing. So we start with the smiling,
Mhm.
and then I teach my authors, or I'll teach anybody who will listen to me, that if you're going to bring a book to the world, and I'm talking about a nonfiction business book that will help position you as an expert, right? Help you share your story, right? Share your message, all that good stuff. You want to guarantee that the book is going to work before you publish it, right? You don't want to guess with your book, which is what too many people do. And not only do you want to guarantee that it's going to work, but you also want to use the book to get clients and strategic partners long before the book is even finished,
Mm.
right?
Mm. That's a turn of events. That's a switch.
It is, right? Most people think that, oh, I have to publish the book and then try to do those things that I'm just describing. And I say, no, it's the complete opposite, right? The first thing you do is use the book or use the idea of the book to have conversations with ideal clients. And through those conversations, I have a 12 question process that I teach my authors, right? You get the lens for the book because you're speaking to your ideal client, so you know exactly where to focus the book. You get the right language for the book because you're speaking to your ideal clients and asking them about their challenges and goals and things like that, and a few other things.
Mm-hmm.
And my last two questions are the ones that lay the groundwork for that person that the author or the author to be is speaking with,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just a very logical extension of, hey, after I finish the book, if I decide to do X, Y, or Z, right, do you want to come hang out some more? Right. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not a sales pitch, nothing like that, but it's just a logical progression of the relationship that started or was deepened through the conversation around the book, right? So
Right.
yeah,
So
it's
it's
really
a
simple.
it's the synergy, it's a evolution of and meeting of minds
Yeah,
and addressing ex- sharing your discoveries with your audiences, with others in your audience and others who are like them.
yeah,
So it's highly focused, highly targeted. The content is rich, it's original, and you get to curate it all into a wonderful work of art, of literary art. That's,
yep, yep.
well, in your
That's a
case,
good
it's
way to say
business
it.
related, yes.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I
it's to
think
help businesses and business influencers in their own industries.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, because there's, too many people, you know, write books and there can be great information in there, but the
Mhm.
books aren't successful, right? And
Mm.
there's a bunch of different reasons. So by doing this process of having conversations with ideal clients, right,
Mhm.
you know exactly the book to write,
Mm.
the language to use, and I use it myself when I'm writing books, and all my clients use this. And some of my clients have gotten exceptional outcomes. So not just the clarity around the book, which we all get, but I
Mhm.
have a client who got a five-figure speaking fee before her book was done from talking about the book with someone. I have another client who got a six-figure consulting gig, same thing, from talking about the book before the book was done, right? So I tell everybody, I can't guarantee when that's going to happen. I can't guarantee the specific result, but sooner or later, conversations about your book delivered in this kind of way or executed in this way sooner or later lead to revenue and impact. And very often, it's long before the book actually comes into the world.
Right. So speaking from your own experience, but have there been some other point, as you were writing your book for your Stanford engagement,
Mhm.
what was flowing through your mind as you were creating this book on influence?
Thank you. That time is a little bit blurry,
Oh
to
yeah.
be
Oh
honest.
yes, it was a while ago, but
Some of it was a little, and just also the kind of the intensity of the experience, because
oh,
I had written a book before then. I had written my first book, Marketing with a Heart. So I knew I had the experience, the lived experience already of writing a book, thank goodness. But
mm-hmm,
I had never, made I had never planned to sit down and write a book in 3 weeks.
mm-hmm. No.
Right. So yeah, yeah.
So
So
there's
so
something about having the deadline, the pressure that you're under.
yes,
So you were highly focused. So
I was highly
I
focused.
feel all of the neurons are firing like they've never
Exactly.
fired before.
That's a great way to say it. Yeah, and that's why when people say, well, what were you thinking about during that time? I don't think I was really thinking about anything. I was just like, being in the zone as much as I could and just moving forward as quickly as I possibly could.
Hmm.
And what was interesting, I didn't put one and one together until about 2 years later. But after all of that happened, I looked back and I was like, wow, I can help people do that, but
Hmm.
I can help them do it through a logical, methodical process.
Hmm.
They don't have to do it like a crazy person like I was at that time, right? I can help them have the tools to stay calm, to keep that light mind, all those kinds of things, right? So those two experiences led to me launching this business, this book writing and publishing business. And in about 2 months, it'll be 5 years officially all of a sudden.
Yeah. Well, and I like you're never saying no to opportunity, even though you don't have all your ducks in a row quite yet, but you're able to line them up just exactly the way they needed to be lined up. Can you just frame for us your steps um, so that people can understand the methodology that you have developed that's
Yep.
yours, it's uniquely yours?
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. Yeah. So the little bit of what I said before, right? The smiling is critical and foundational to all of this to keep that light mind. Having a set of conversations with ideal clients, 10 to 20 people, to get a really, really good set of data, to look at the trends, look at the language, and then start bringing that into the actual book writing process. And for the writing, what we do is we actually start with a book outline. So I give my authors an outline for the book or a blueprint for the book, right?
Mhm.
Like I don't want people stressing or worrying about the logistics of a book, right? I
Mhm.
want to give them the path to follow, right?
Mhm.
So I give them this architecture that breaks the book down section by section by section, little bit by little bit by little bit. And it doesn't matter what their topic is, right? Because the architecture just helps them deliver the information,
Mhm.
right? So it applies to every different kind of book, whatever the topic area is. And to facilitate the actual getting words onto paper or onto
Mhm.
digital paper,
Yeah.
we do a couple things. So in addition to the blueprint, I'll give folks a writing framework or a communication framework to follow that's based on the teachings of a Harvard psychologist named David Kolb, Kolb. And David Kolb talked about different kinds of learning styles that people have. And
Mhm.
the super nutshell is that among most humans, there are four main learning styles. So
Mhm.
if you hit each learning style in your communication, so every time you write a blog post or make a video or a section of a book, you hit those four communication styles through what you're sharing, and you're going to communicate really clearly, really effectively, and really influentially.
Mhm.
um, so what I do is I'll have people use the writing framework and then make some bullet points of their
Mhm.
main ideas based on that writing framework.
Mhm.
And then, as much as my authors will do it, I encourage dictation. So
Mm.
to dictate a section of the book each time. And when I say section, I mean make those bullet points, those 4, 5, 6 bullet points, set the timer for 4 minutes,
Mm.
not longer than 4 minutes, 4 minutes, and
Mhm.
then talk through those bullet points, right? Because you're an expert in your stuff. You know what you're talking about. You've made your bullet points, talk through, and there's several benefits here. One is that when you speak in your authentic voice. You don't get caught up on, is this the right word? Am I using the right punctuation? All of that is completely off the table, right? Because you're an expert in your stuff and you're just teaching for those 4 minutes. The
Mhm.
other benefit, as you can imagine, is the speed or efficiency of the content creation at that point.
Mhm.
4 minutes, you can speak 600 words,
Mm.
right? And 600 words is 2.5% of a 25,000 word book, or in other words, 600 words is 2.5% of about a 150-page book.
Wow. Wow. You have it all very specifically laid out, and you've helped your writers, your client writers, overcome writer's block. They have an outline, they have bullet points that they can talk to, and they are also dictating. So, hitting several, well, the four modalities of learning that you mentioned also in your methodology.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for summing it up
Oh, no.
beautifully.
I just wanted to help people kind of package it up together in another way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I appreciate you doing that because, sometimes when I explain this to people, like I feel like I explain it clearly and the methodology is really clear, but sometimes people they just don't know that this is even possible. So the first time I explain it, they just kind of go, "What? Oh my God, you can do that with a book?" Right? So
Mhm.
it really kind of shakes their foundation because so many of us, have a traditional perspective about book writing, that it
Mhm.
takes a long time and, there's all these other kind of stipulations in the mix and,
Mhm.
things that are going to get in the way. And 99% of what people used to think
Mhm.
would keep them from writing a book no
Mhm.
longer applies, period.
Mhm.
Yeah.
90%, that's quite a high percentage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, time is basically not an issue, if you
Mhm.
follow methodology like mine.
Mhm.
Um, Having the clarity from talking to your ideal clients so you know exactly what to put in the book, right?
Mhm.
There's no guessing at that point.
Mhm.
Having a blueprint to follow, you don't have to worry about the logistics of a book.
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
If you're like, oh, I don't know what to say, that's not true. Talk to your ideal clients. They will tell you what you need to say. And because you're an expert in your stuff, you know what you want to teach already, right? The key is just you want to make sure what you're teaching bridges appropriately to what people are looking for. Right?
Mm. Oh, yes.
And
Very
that
nicely. Yes, it's a win-win for everyone, and it's a methodology that, when you think about it, really can make an impact. And underneath it all, remember to smile. We must remember to smile while we're to lighten up our load, and so our brain can function freely. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
exactly that. Yeah, thank you. And then just to round out the process, as I'm coaching people through writing the book,
Mm-hmm.
I'm also functioning as a business coach or business strategist. So
Mm.
looking the whole time and okay, how are we going to leverage this book? Maybe the author might have an opportunity to be on a podcast while they're writing a book,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'll coach them in, well, how are you going to talk about the book even though it's not finished yet? What are
Mm-hmm.
you going to say? How are you going to position yourself? I'm also looking at the book in terms of what the author wants the book to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? Strategic outcomes of the book. And one of the biggest things in my strategy, my approach, I mean, this is what I do in my business. So I teach what I know, I teach what I do. I'll say to people, just to give a very clear, direct example, if you want to make $100,000 with a book, right? There's two ways you can do. I mean, there's probably several ways you can do it, but for my example, if you want to make $100,000 with a book, you
Mm-hmm.
can try to sell books, right? But if you're going to sell books, you have to sell like 90,000 books to make $100,000, because of the royalties and all the other things that, if you're working with a traditional publisher, all of the money that doesn't go to you. So then
Mm-hmm.
you have to sell 90,000 books, and that requires a tremendous amount of time, money, and energy for marketing, for publicity, for advertising, all these kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay, you sell 90,000 books. How many people are going to read the book? Because most people don't read whole books. Sometimes people don't even open books. If they read the book, are they going to take action, right? So there's all of these barricades and roadblocks and things that keep people from the goal, or you from the goal of having them as a client. So I
Mm-hmm.
like the math. Instead of selling 90,000 books to make $100,000, I
Mm-hmm.
would much rather sell zero books to make $100,000, right? And everybody listening now is like, well, how does that work? Well, it's simple, right? You publish your book, you bring it into the world, and then you get copies of your own book, preferably hardcover because it makes you look extra cool and extra professional. You get those hardcover copies of the book, you put a nice note inside, and you send them to your ideal clients. And then
Mm.
you develop or deepen the relationship with them. And depending on your pricing model, one client can get you that $100,000, or two, or five, or 20, whatever that is,
Mhm.
doesn't matter. But even if it's 20 clients to get you to that $100,000 goal, that's infinitely easier than trying to sell 90,000 books.
Yes, and the books are typically 150 pages, I think I remember you saying.
That's my recommendation, that you don't want your book to be more than 150 pages, approximately
Mm-hmm.
about 25,000 words, because too much, too long, too big, most people aren't going to read the whole book. That's just a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Has nothing to do with the quality of the book, the quality of the writing, the quality of the information. It's just that in most, actually all genres of all kinds of books,
Mm-hmm.
most people don't read the whole book.
Hmm.
Right? That's just the reality of the world, because people skim, people scan, people jump around, people read, and then they get distracted. They don't get back to it, right? So you don't want to write a 75,000 word business book if
Mm-hmm.
people aren't going to read the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. And they want to read it concisely. So if they are going to read the whole book, if they're like me, I'm a cover
Exactly,
to cover
exactly.
person.
Yeah, yeah. So something that they could read, like on a Sunday afternoon in a couple of hours, or on a medium length flight, say from, like, I don't know, New York to somewhere in the Midwest, or something
Right.
like that. Yeah.
Right.
And then any words, so to speak, beyond the 25,000 words, save them for the next book.
I listen to, let me ask this question from a selfish point of view. I listen to a lot of books on on Audible, so that are not hard copy or ebook even, but are Audible.
Yep.
Can you comment on that channel?
Absolutely. Yeah. So ebooks, or sorry, audiobooks,
Mm-hmm.
Audible. There's a few other ways to get Audible books, or audiobooks. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they're great, right? They're fantastic. A lot of people really like to listen to books. So what I say to my clients is that if you're going to think about doing an audiobook, do it later than the print book. And that might mean like a year later or 2 years later, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, use it as another strategic activity,
Mm-hmm.
to expand your platform. But then I will say, hey, if you're thinking about an Audible book, you might actually want to consider repurposing your book
Mm-hmm.
into a podcast,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because if you've done your book well, AKA you've had conversations with your ideal clients, you know it's what they need, right? You have a high quality book. then you've done like 80% of a season of a podcast already, right? It just needs to be restructured for a season of a podcast. And podcasts have much more reach than audiobooks do,
Mm,
right? One person will go buy one audiobook, right? But podcasts, are evergreen in the web, on the web. You can keep marketing to them, keep sharing them, you
mm-hmm.
know, purposing them, keep relaunching them. And there's something about that expanded platform. You can reach people literally all around the world with your podcast.
Wow.
So, so I don't, I never say no to the audio book, the Audible book, but I will not, most of the time I will say do a podcast first because you've done most of the heavy lifting simply by writing the book already.
All right, all right. And Ben, talk to us about your podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. So I have a podcast called what is it called? The Book Brand and Business Podcast.
Oh, the BBB.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you. And I have, gosh, I'm not too far into it of five or so episodes and, going to be revisiting one of these days, yeah. And the podcast just kind of came, it evolved originally from a partnership where I ended up doing an event and writing a book with someone who helps people with podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And just as I started teaching my material, and I was doing a lot of LinkedIn Live audio
Mm-hmm.
presentations,
Mm-hmm.
and she was like, "Oh, you should just record those, and we'll turn them into podcasts." And I was like, "Oh, that's a great idea."
Yeah.
So I have half a dozen or so podcasts, all in up and displayed, and then I have a season of podcasts that I co-hosted with that person.
Mm-hmm.
Her name is Donna Kunde, and that podcast is called Business Podcasting Made Easy.
Yeah.
So we actually teach people how to create a business podcast over the course of 52 short episodes, like 13 minutes a pop. So
Yes.
you,
What a wonderful partnership as you developed with Donna Kunde. And
yeah,
I've attended, just full disclosure, I have attended their seminars, their webinars, and they're amazing. They have also brought in other guests who can help with the whole um, the production line of doing books and podcasts. It can help people walk through and have assistance and guidance from experts all along the way. So it's very end to end, from marketing with a book and also marketing with podcasts. So I just recommend it highly. And I'll give everyone the links so that you can also access these resources. Very valuable.
thank you so much. I
All right,
appreciate that
you're
very
welcome.
much.
Yes. So, is there anything else you'd like to add that you want our audience to be aware of?
Gosh, yeah, I think just a couple of things
Sure.
perspective
We have
wise.
time, so feel free to expand.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. So number one is, if you're thinking about a book, or if you have a book that's halfway done, partially done, get the book done. I was a hospice volunteer for about 3 years when I lived in San Francisco, and I got to sit with people who were dying, literally.
Mm,
And yeah, several of those people had different kinds of regrets about different aspects in their lives, and you don't want to die with regrets, or at least if you die with any regrets, you want them to be minimal and not really
mm,
that big, right? So
mm,
tell your story, share your message, take your shot, because none of us know how long we're going to be here, right?
mm,
And theoretically, hopefully, we're going to be here for a long time. We're going to live long, happy, healthy lives, and we don't know how it goes. Nell, as I shared with you
mhm,
recently, I had a client unexpectedly pass away recently.
mm. So
Young
sorry.
guy, amazing story, really impactful, doing a lot of good in the world, and his time was up. So we never know when, and to leave our mark, to leave that legacy.
Mhm,
Books are really, really powerful. So that's one thing in there. And then I also say to people in terms of writing your book, hurry up and write your book, but don't rush writing your book.
Okay.
There's that,
How do
there's
we
that
do
very,
that?
there's that very fine balance of, yes, you want to get it done because people are waiting for your message. There are people who need you specifically, and you don't want to rush through, right? Like if we are that rushing energy,
Mhm.
right, doesn't help anything, right? It
Mm.
doesn't mean that we can't move fast and execute quickly and move things forward and not get stuck in perfectionism. Like all of those things are true, but that kind of frenetic of, oh my God, I gotta hurry this thing up. That's not the energy you want to bring to your book, right? Remember, it's that back to that light mind, the smiling, the breathing, the relaxing, and the sooner you get it out the door, great. And I had a coach who would say, my my piece of crap book is infinitely better than your non-existent book.
Mm.
Right? And I'm not advising anyone to write a piece of crap book, but the most of us, myself included, you're never going to feel like the book is good enough. You're never, because in this, sometimes we're striving for excellence. Sometimes that kind of turns into perfectionism, which is dangerous, and perfectionism can keep us stuck,
Mm.
right? So just
Mhm.
get the book to be good enough, right?
Mhm.
Talk to your ideal clients, and if you've done that, your book is by default going to be good enough, and get
Mhm.
it out into the world, because you will help more people by having a book than not having a book.
Oh, yes. Books are almost by definition the definers for influencers and experts. We
Yeah,
assume that about in business, um,
yeah.
and maybe in other realms of our life. But I'd like to go back, touch back on, we started out with smiling and having that light heart, but we really didn't talk too much about why that's so important. I mean, we did touch it a little bit, but just now you alluded to the fact that when you are in a lighter place, your book will be much better. And can you help us define what better is when we're in that light place?
Yeah, thank you. So some of it is the experience, the creative experience,
Mm-hmm.
right? That it's, that you have more time actually being in flow, right? And operating more from that effortless. Well, effortless maybe isn't quite the right word, but you're not pushing against something to make it happen,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you're moving forward and you could be working hard, but you're not pushing, right? Like and I'm specifically scrunching my eyebrows as I say this, right? Like you don't want to be creating or doing anything from that place if you can avoid it, right? Because when our minds are lighter and more open, right, we're less resistant to the challenges that come up,
Mm-hmm.
right? So challenge comes up instead of like, God damn it, it's like, hey, there's that challenge. What can I do about it? Who can I ask for help? How can I take a different approach? Maybe I need to take a nap, right? Just, to actually respond rather than react
Mm-hmm.
is a
Mm-hmm.
really important aspect of the smiling and the light mind.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that whole neurobiological loop that, of course, we smile when we're happy, but we can actually trigger happiness by smiling.
Mm-hmm.
And like our brain chemistry changes when we smile,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's like the more you smile throughout your day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guaranteed the better your life will be. Guaranteed you will have better interactions with people. And a little footnote, like if you're at a funeral, right, you probably don't want to sit there like, with a big cheesy grin on your face, but you can smile from your heart. You can smile behind your eyes, right? You just,
Mm-hmm.
you can have that energy of that, just that open, loving energy,
Mm-hmm.
let that radiate.
Mm-hmm.
Because not only are you going to benefit from it, but the people around you are going to pick up on that. The animals around you are going to pick up on that. It is one of the most powerful things because love is one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful force in the universe.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Agreed wholeheartedly. And
Yeah.
when we smile and we open up our bodies and our minds, we don't push back, like you said, but things float in. ideas float in, feelings float in because we're not resisting, we're opening. A
Yeah,
smile allows us to open,
yeah.
and that allows us to write, like you said, with less effort,
Mhm.
because it's just you're in the flow. You become the instrument.
Yeah, that's a really, really good way to say that. I appreciate it. And, you know, I struggled for many years as an entrepreneur because being an entrepreneur is hard. Right? It's
Yes,
hard. That's
yeah.
just period. And learning to bring smiling into my day,
Mhm.
even outside of the book activity, was one of the greatest gifts I ever received from the teacher that I learned it from. Because, you know, when I was dealing with the hard aspects of being an entrepreneur, it's like, okay, let me smile, let my body relax. Okay, what can I do with this? Okay, let me not take this challenge personally. Let me just recognize it as, okay, here's what's happening right now.
Mhm.
What do I do about it? Or can I just let this go and move on? And that's made my whole entrepreneurial journey just so much more pleasant. And even when things are really, really hard,
Mhm.
I had this colleague that passed away recently, right? Just allowing myself to smile, just to soften into the grief,
Mhm.
so it wasn't such a solid, difficult feeling in my body. And it didn't mean, it still doesn't hurt, right? But,
Mhm.
it allows me to change my relationship with that experience of grief and let the waves soften and, they go away a little sooner. And sure, they come back, but
Mhm.
maybe they don't come screaming back at me the next time.
Mhm.
And so, smiling is just arguably the best tool you can have in your toolbox.
Right. And I hope everybody's appreciating the many dimensions that Ben is sharing with us in himself and how he operates on many different rich levels. But I also want you to know that Ben is a really generous man. And so, in that generosity, there's a higher goal to your business, and that we alluded to it earlier, and that is to make the world a better place. And you're helping people share themselves, the gifts that they are, with others to help make the world a better place for themselves and for those who matter to them. Let's talk about what it means to do that, to have as one of your missions to make the world a better place.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Service just has been something that's been important to me as long as I can remember. And I think a lot of that came from my family. I was very fortunate, the example from different members of my family. And I realized that I wanted to help as many people as possible. And when I was quite a bit younger and more idealistic than realistic, I
Mm.
was like, wow, I want to help 1 million people.
Mm.
And then I was like, wow, that's exhausting. And then I was like, wait a minute, if I can help people write books and those people are impacting their networks, their audiences, their clients, their customers, right, that I can impact a lot of people through the ripples that I'm making, right? And I really understood much more deeply how much impact we can make through collaboration and relationship with each other. And the more we help people do good, right? The more they can do good, the more benefit we receive. I mean, we receive the benefit of just the goodness of the service. And if you think in spiritual terms, we get a lot of really good karma credit.
Yeah.
So, right, and that comes back sooner or later. I mean, it comes back instantly, and it comes back later. I should say it like that.
Mm.
Um, so there's such a gift there, and the more I can help people write amazing books that elevate their business, those people are going to tell more people about me and
Mm.
refer people to me.
Mhm.
And the people that they refer, not only are they warm leads, so to speak, in the marketing language, but these are more of my kinds of people because
Mm.
they've come from directly from my kinds of people.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yes. Absolutely. Very, very well strategic. And Ben did say he is a strategist and he helps his clients with their strategy and in a very effective way. As you can see, he's a person I think a lot of people should know more about and interact with. So, Ben, tell us again how people can reach you and how they can connect with you and take advantage of your podcasts and your webinars. Do you have a webinar coming up soon?
Yeah, thank you. I actually have a couple. So I do a monthly masterclass with Donna called "Don't Die with Your Story Inside," and we talk about both podcasts and books and a lot of applicable information around communication and making an impact. That's the third Tuesday of every month. If you go to goodness gracious, I think it's influencersformula.com/masterclass dash registration. I'm sorry that's so long, but it'll be in the show notes. Um, you can also just go to my LinkedIn profile. My name is Ben, last name is Gioia. And in my featured section, you can find your way to the events there. And then I'm about to start my own monthly masterclass on the first Tuesday of each month. And it's called The Brilliant Book Method. And if I remember the subtitle correctly, it's something like how to write a lead generating, client attracting, world impacting, or impact making kind of book, something like that.
Wow, you hit all the buttons.
Yes, trying to. So those are a couple of live trainings, and then I have a fantastic book assessment at influencewithaheart.com/book success guaranteed. Influencewithaheart.com/book success guaranteed, and you can take the assessment 25 minutes. Sorry, in like 2 minutes, 25 questions, and just score yourself, and you'll see if your book is ready to go in the world, or if you could use a little bit of help or a lot of help. So, any one of those are fabulous resources. All of those are fabulous resources. And of course, if you want to chat with me, reach out at any time. Happy to help. Influencewithaheart.com/connect. And it would be a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, excellent, excellent. All right, everybody, you heard it here. I highly recommend Ben Gioia to you. And he's a tremendous resource, as you can see, and also a lovely person to work with and have as a friend. He's very dear. All right. All right. So we're going to say goodbye for now. And I really appreciate your joining us, Ben. This has been a really rich, wonderful visit with you. And thank you so much for your generous sharing and your authenticity, which is unquestionably real. And I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. You're so welcome. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
I'm glad you have. All right, everybody. So that's it for this episode, and we'll hopefully have Ben again. He's such a charming person, and hope to see you again next Wednesday. And join us for Business and Life Insights. Thank you very much, and we'll see you then. Bye for now.